I passed through the forest and arrived at the lakeshore, where I found Snow White sitting on the pier like always. Snow White! Beneath the moonlight, his ghostly pale face slowly turned to look at me.
Looks like you've found the answer.
Yeah, I think so, I answered vaguely.
You're not sure?
Not really. I guess I don't have any solid reasoning. And even if I'm right, I can't possibly believe it. I just have so many questions.
Still, I was hoping you'd figure it out.
You've wanted me to notice for a long time now, haven't you? That's why you kept giving me hints. Sorry it took me this long. He smiled faintly. What?
You two really are alike.
Me and your friend?
Yeah. When I first met you, I knew right away. I'd only ever seen photos from when you were a kid, but I recognized those gemstone eyes. And you stole my heart in an instant. The truth is, I wanted nothing more than to see you in person.
Just then, his body slumped sideways. Snow White? I rushed to catch him before he fell. Snow White? Snow White! But he didn't respond. He appeared to be unconscious. I touched his forehead, but didn't feel a fever. Quite the contrary. He's freezing! I took off my coat and draped it over him. Then I loosened his collar so he could breathe more easily. Wrapped around his pale neck was a bright pink mark, almost like he'd been strangled with something. What is this? Eureka!
What happened?
When did you guys get here? Right on cue, Cinderella and Red Riding Hood ran onto the scene. Guys! Help me carry him! Got it!
Understood.
I hadn't given them much in the way of an explanation, but they didn't seem to need one. Cinderella took Snow White and hefted him onto Red's back. He weighs almost nothing. It was just an offhand remark, yet it made my heart ache.
Should we take him to the hospital?
Normally, that would be the correct course of action. However, this situation was far from normal. More than likely, it would prove pointless. I hesitated for a moment before answering. Let's take him home with us.
What?
Ideally, we would take him to a hospital, but I don't see the point in it right now. My brothers frowned at me. Then Red responded in a calm voice.
I can't claim to understand, but very well. Let's take him home, as you've requested.
Thanks, Red. Alright, what are we gonna do with that? We laid Snow White onto my bed, then bundled him up in a bunch of blankets to keep him warm.
So cold.
He was trembling. Under the bright lights, his complexion was ashen. I squeezed his icy hand and exhaled against it. If only I could have noticed sooner. I had written it off as an effect of the chilly winter night. But I was wrong. He wasn't just cold and pale. He was anemic. After a while, his long eyelashes fluttered, and he slowly opened his eyes.
Is this your room?
Yep.
Looks pretty girly.
Well, I am a girl.
Yeah.
And you're a guy.
Yeah. I'm a guy. I can't be a princess. So instead, I figured I'd try to be a prince. I wanted to be the hero who saves the princess. But I couldn't manage that either.
Personally, I'm glad you're a guy. To me, you are a prince. You're my prince.
I can't save you, though.
That's not true. Do you remember the day we first met? My hair was caught on a tree branch and you helped me get free.
But that was...
You saved my bacon that day. So this time it's my turn. This is the Looking Glass world where everything is topsy-turvy. So I'm going to rescue you, Snow White. In the kitchen, I pulled everything out of the fridge.
What are you getting up to this late at night?
Making something to eat. Porridge, or a hot toddy, or baked goods. Anything will do. I'll try everything I can think of until I find something Snow White can eat. We had the ingredients, the tools, and the perfect chef.
You're hopeless, you know that? Fine, I'll help you out.
As will I. What would you have me do?
This was a cafe. Our job was to offer tasty treats and a moment of relaxation to our guests.
Incredible.
Snow White took one look at the food lining the table and murmured in amazement.
You made all this?
Not by myself. My brothers Cinderella and Red Riding Hood both helped me. I shot a wink in their direction. And we made it all for you, Snow White.
For me?
Now then, right this way, my good sir. I led him by the hand to the table. I've prepared a buffet all for you. Feel free to eat whatever you like and as much of it as you like.
Whatever I like.
He froze, holding his plate.
I can't.
He hung his head.
It's no use. I can't eat anything.
At his stubborn refusal, my brothers seemed to lose their patience.
Don't be like that. Just try a damn bite, will you? It's not poison.
That's right. Our sister made it all with you in mind. She would never... I know that.
Snow White raised his voice.
I've always known that, right from the start. But I'm scared. I'm scared that I won't be able to keep it down. You people just don't get it. No matter how good it looks, the second I take a bite of anything, it tastes like death. It starts to smell weird, and then my mouth tastes like I licked an ashtray. My only choice is to spit it out.
Is that why you've never tried anything I made?
Yeah, exactly.
I thought back to the apple pie his mother had given me. It was moldy and inedible. Perhaps that was the only flavor Snow White could taste. I grabbed his shaking hand and squeezed tight. You're so cold, and you're deathly pale. You haven't eaten in a long time, have you? He stared darkly at the floor. Go ahead and spit it out if you have to. I won't be offended, because I'm going to keep trying until I find something you can eat.
Why?
Like I said, I'm going to help you. Listen, Snow White. If I'm going to heal you, then I have to either solve your problem or find a compromise. Otherwise, you'll be trapped in this waking dream for eternity. So I'll do whatever it takes. I'm going to fulfill my purpose.
Even if it means you die.
But before I could answer...
Arisu!
Mother ran into the cafe, looking white as a sheet.
Oh, thank God! I'm so glad you're safe!
She dashed over and pulled me into a hug. Me, not Snow White. She was crying. Mother? I frowned dubiously. Then she cupped my face in her hands.
When I heard that you collapsed, I thought my heart was going to stop. How many times must I tell you not to leave the house? The world is full of wicked, wicked wolves. They would gobble you up in seconds.
Then she looked around the room.
Who are these people?
Ugh.
At this, Snow White stared down at the floor in terror.
What did you do to her?
What? We didn't...
But the moment Cinderella tried to reach out...
Stay away!
Mother pulled me a step back.
What? Mother, I'm not your mother. This is my only child, and I'm not giving her to you people! So stay away from her!
Tears filled her eyes as she trembled. Nevertheless, she fought bravely to protect me from the wolves. Mother.
Oh, Arisu, my sweet, precious angel. Let's go home. Back to where we belong. I'll keep you safe.
You just went? Oh no, we're back at this house! Oh my goodness! What the heck? What is happening? This is wild. She led me to a small cabin out in the middle of the woods. What is this place?
We're home now. We'll be safe here.
This is our home?
It's a little castle for just the two of us. As long as we stay here, I can keep you safe.
This so-called castle was located in the same area as the mansion I'd visited. Ah, the birdcage room again, eh? Nice, nice. The spacious rooms and luxurious furnishings were gone, replaced with a cramped but functional living space. Be more functional if there wasn't a giant birdcage, but okay. Almost as if a magic spell had been broken. It was strange and inexplicable and downright absurd. And yet, with a single word, it all made sense.
Arisu.
She cupped a hand to my cheek and spoke softly.
Now listen here. You're not like all the other kids. You're a precious angel. That's why you mustn't play outside. The world is filled with wicked wolves, and you can never trust them. So if one of them talks to you, be sure to ignore them. You have to watch the house while I'm gone, understand? And if anyone knocks on the door, don't let them in, no matter what. What's wrong, Arisu?
Mother, why are you trying to keep me locked up in here?
Well, I mean, didn't I tell you? It's not safe out there.
You do have a point. The world can be a dangerous place. But I'm not as weak as you think I am.
Don't be ridiculous! Have you forgotten? The moment you step outside, everyone looks at you funny. Your little heart couldn't possibly bear it.
I'm an adult now. If I have to fight back against society, then so be it.
You can't fight society. It's just not possible. Besides, if you never go outside, then you'll never get hurt. You'll never go astray.
Sure, but there are countless things in this world that I'll never discover unless I venture out there.
Sometimes knowing the truth does more harm than good.
Maybe you're right. Maybe ignorance is bliss. But you know as well as I do that the world is full of light, full of people. And not all of those people are wicked wolves.
I don't care! All that matters is that you do what I say. It's for your own good.
He's his own person. You know that better than anyone. I really like you, Mother. You're sweet and innocent and cheerful. You've never lost touch with your inner child. And I'm sure Snow White liked that about you too. Because he really loved you. And you really loved him, didn't you? Now, I don't know what happened between the two of you. I can't pretend to know what your suffering was like. But do you really think you can keep him locked away forever? On second thought. Listen, Snow White. I called his name.
What are you...
How long are you planning to stay cooped up in here? You can't stay like this. You have to make a change. This whole world is your dream. Isn't that right, Snow White? Before he could recover, I planted a kiss on her cheek. Whoa, what? Oh! Checkmate. I win. Just then... The window beside me shattered loudly and everything went dark. Instantly, an overpowering stench hit my nostrils. Ugh! I quickly clapped a hand over my nose, but this did nothing to block out the smell. Ugh. It was hard to describe. Somewhere between rotten garbage and excrement. Did we break through the illusion and now we're like in the house where Mom was actually dead? But suffice it to say, the stench was enough to make me puke. My eyes blurred with tears as I struggled to keep myself upright. Then my foot touched something. Oh gosh. What happened in here? Okay, it's actually just trash. If it's just trash, that's fine. At first I didn't know what it was, but eventually my eyes adapted to the darkness and I realized it was a trash bag. Actually, upon further inspection, the whole room was filled with trash.
Filthy, isn't it? But I guess it's hardly a surprise, since no one's cleaned the place.
The flat voice brought me back to my senses. Well, hello. Who's wearing, like, the green off to the side, by the way? Snow White was standing there in the darkness. Skin as white as snow, lips and cheeks as red as an apple, bright, shiny hair, big, sparkly eyes. Desperate to control my emotions, I closed my eyes and took a breath. So this is where you actually live? I lowered the hand that was covering my nose, held my breath, and looked at him.
Yeah, that's right. I never wanted you to see this. I wanted to be pristine and perfect for you. I wanted to be a prince. But that was just a silly dream. The real me is nothing like a prince. I'm just a grimy man-child.
And who might that be? I gestured to the human-shaped thing sitting lifelessly in the chair beside him. Oh god. For you see, it was the true source of this filth. I couldn't see much in the darkness, but it appeared to be decaying, hence the smell.
That's my mother. Who killed Cock Robin? I, said the sparrow. With my bow and arrow I killed Cock Robin.
That's a Mother Goose poem, isn't it?
I had a feeling you'd know it. But it wasn't a robin that died, and it wasn't a sparrow that killed her. It was me. I killed my mother.
That's a lie.
No, it isn't. I drove my mother to her death.
That's a lie. It's a lie. It's not your fault. I don't believe it. What is happening? Okay, it's snowing. I'm like, we're not at credits yet, surely, because good grief.
Looking back, I could remember the little white snowflakes. And as the snow fell, my mother told me a story.
That was a pretty snow effect, by the by. Alright, so we're getting this, eh?
Once upon a time in midwinter, a queen sat sewing at her ebony wood window when a flurry of snowflakes blew in like little feathers. She was so distracted by the snow, she pricked her finger on the needle. Her blood spread across the snow like little roses in bloom. And when she saw it, she was convinced that her baby would be born with skin as white as snow, lips and cheeks as red as blood, and hair as dark as ebony wood. Sure enough, she gave birth to a beautiful baby girl with skin as white as snow, lips and cheeks as red as blood, and hair as dark as ebony wood. And so the queen named her Snow White. Oh, it's snowing.
Mother stroked my hair as I pretended to sleep.
It's so beautiful. Frills, lace, and ribbons of every color. Oh, how I longed for those things. Fanciful banquets, pretty dresses, and a house as big as a castle. I wanted to be like my beloved princesses. So where did I go wrong?
That night was as cold as ice. I pressed my hand against the window and peered outside. Tiny snowflakes fluttered down from the blanket of gray clouds overhead. All the lights were off, but thanks to the snow, the world seemed a tiny bit brighter.
I'm back!
My mother's cheerful voice called out from the entryway. I heard her thunderous footsteps headed in my direction, and then the lights clicked on.
Welcome home. Sorry I'm late. You could have turned the lights on, you know. Did you eat?
No. I shook my head. She peered down at me, her coat hanging from her arm. I could see my reflection in her eyes, but it was so small and fuzzy, I couldn't be sure it was actually me.
Why not? I left you some money, didn't I?
So again with leaving money for food, eh?
I didn't respond. Then she picked up the toy lying on my bed.
I see you bought another piece of junk.
I could hear anger and sadness in her voice. I was convinced she was going to yell at me, so I squeezed my eyes shut. But she simply pulled me into a hug.
I'm sorry.
She was crying.
You're sorry? For what? For leaving my baby boy all alone. And for being too poor to buy you the things you want. I'm sorry I've made your life so miserable.
Mother. I didn't understand why she was apologizing, but I understood that it was my fault.
Oh, Snow.
Mother, I'm sorry. I was devastated. My heart ached to think my existence was causing my mother so much pain and misery. More than anything, I wanted to be the son she wanted me to be.
Don't cry, Mother. I'll be your princess, so please, don't cry.
Frills, lace, ribbons of every color, beautiful dresses, and a house as big as a castle. If that was what she wanted, then it was what I wanted for myself too. As I recall, she looked rather hurt by this.
What's wrong?
But I was too young to understand. She pulled away and gently stroked my hair.
This is important, so I want you to listen. You're a boy, and boys can't be princesses. But Mother, you said you like princesses.
At the time, I was heartbroken that I couldn't be what she loved.
That's true. I do love princesses. But you know what else I love just as much? Princes.
Princes?
Yup. Remember the heroes from the storybooks I read to you? The prince always saves the princess. You're a boy, so that makes you a prince. My little prince.
I'm your prince? Does that make you a princess?
Not exactly. I'm your mother, after all.
She smiled sadly. I desperately wanted to make her happy.
Mother, I'll be a prince just for you, and then I'll save you. Thank you, sweetie. You're such an angel. My perfect prince. Yeah.
My mother had me when she was fairly young, and to me, she was the fairest in all the land. She loved flowers and fairy tales. She loved to dream, and she never wanted to grow up.
I know. If you haven't had anything to eat, then how about some apple pie? The apples were super cheap, so I bought a whole bunch. You like apple pie, don't you?
Yeah, I love it. Whenever she had some free time, my mother always made me an apple pie, and her apple pies were the best. Frills, lace, ribbons of every color, beautiful dresses, and a house as big as a castle. We were too impoverished to have any of these things, but we were still happy.
Well, I'd better be going.
My mother was a busy woman. She went to work early in the morning, came home in the evening, then put on lots of makeup and left to go to her second job.
Don't like the sound of that. Are you only wearing a coat, perchance?
Each time she left, she would summon me and say,
Now listen here. You have to watch the house while I'm gone, understand? And if anyone knocks on the door, don't let them in no matter what.
Yes, Mother.
Good boy. Be back later. Be safe.
Whenever my mother wasn't around, I spent my time reading books. She would often bring them home with her, and they were full of pretty princesses. But inevitably I would doze off in the middle of a book, and when I awoke I would find the house dark. My mother still wasn't home. So, with nothing else to do, I went back to reading. Then I would get drowsy again and fall back asleep. Every day was a repeat of the last. My mother always came home late at night. Deep down, I wanted her to read me a story, but I knew she was tired, and I couldn't be selfish. As I pretended to sleep, she crawled into bed with me and gave me a big hug.
I'm going to work real hard for you, I promise.
I could smell a sweet, flowery fragrance. Then one day, when my mother finally had a day off, we went into town together. "It's so white!" I shouted gleefully. The whole area was covered in a blanket of fluffy white snow. Snow was by no means uncommon here, but I was just so happy to be out of the house on a trip with my mother. I couldn't help but frolic in the snow. After a while, I came to a stop.
What's wrong?
The snow. The pretty white snow had turned to grimy black. As I hung my head, my mother seemed to sense my sadness. She walked up to me.
These things happen, sweetheart. The snow is just a blanket that hides the dirt and grime underneath.
It's hiding the dirt. She pointed to the tarnished snow.
See? There's dirt under there. But the snow can hide it all from sight.
No matter what.
Yup.
For some reason, a chill ran down my spine. Sure, the snow could hide things, but when you stepped on it, it became just as dirty as everything beneath.
Achoo! Oh my, bless you! Are you cold? Want to wear my coat?
I'm okay.
You sure? Oh, in that case, want to hold hands? This way you'll be a little warmer, don't you think? Yeah.
Mother's hand felt nice and warm as it enveloped my own.
Hey, look! Isn't he cute? Oh my god, he's so cute!
As we walked through town, I kept overhearing certain words. Words like cute and pretty. But that wasn't all. It felt like people were staring at me. Everyone we passed on the street seemed to be looking at me. And for some reason, they all seemed to be whispering and giggling behind their hands. Reactions varied from person to person, but it didn't make me uncomfortable because I didn't sense any ill will. At one point, Mother decided to stop by the greengrocer to buy vegetables for dinner. The owner's wife took one look at me and broke into a smile.
Oh, look at those big eyes! You're so cute!
As she spoke, she gave me one of her apples. It was the first time a stranger had given me a gift. Startled, I looked up at my mother.
Well, what a thoughtful gift! What do you say?
Thank you. At this, the woman's eyes widened in surprise. This confused me. I didn't understand why she was surprised at all.
Now then, let's get going.
Then my mother led me out of the store. As I would soon discover, the greengrocer's wife wasn't the only person to react that way. No matter where we went, everyone called me cute and gave me special treatment.
Am I cute?
At this, my mother replied without hesitation.
Of course you are. You're adorable.
But I'm not a princess. As far as I knew, cute was something only girls could be. But I wasn't a girl, and yet they still called me cute. While I didn't mind it, I didn't really understand it. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw a mother and child holding hands. Who was that? Startled, I came to a stop. The other boy stopped too. I let go of Mother's hand and approached him. Likewise, he mirrored my actions. I reached out. He reached out. Our palms touched. But his carried no human warmth. I looked up and found him staring back at me in alarm. Skin as white as snow. Lips and cheeks as red as an apple. And bright, shiny hair. He looked nothing like anyone I'd ever seen. Who was he?
What's wrong?
As I stood there in a daze, my mother gently called out to me.
Mother,
How come I don't look like you?
well,
Just then,
Look, it's a foreigner.
hey you, how's it going, girly boy?
some boys my age started to jeer at me. Unlike the adults, they treated me like the anomaly I was. That was the moment I finally understood why everyone had given me special treatment. It was because I didn't look like them. I was standing in front of a glass display case, and the strange-looking boy was actually my reflection. All at once I grew frightened. I clung to my mother.
Are those boys being mean to you?
My mother asked quietly. Dark hair, dark eyes. She really looked nothing like me. I didn't answer. She looked around for a moment, then slid an arm around my shoulders and hurried away.
Mother, you have nothing to worry about. I'll protect you. Okay.
After that, Mother stopped letting me leave the house. Before she left for work, she summoned me and said,
Now listen here. You're not like all the other kids. You're a precious angel. That's why you mustn't play outside. The world is filled with wicked wolves and you can never trust them. So if one of them talks to you, be sure to ignore them. You have to watch the house while I'm gone, understand? And if anyone knocks on the door, don't let them in, no matter what.
Yes, Mother.
Good boy. Be back later.
Left alone in the house, I gazed through the window. The snow glittered in the soft sunlight. I really enjoyed going into town with my mother. I wanted to play outside again. But then I saw my hazy reflection in the glass and realized it was a hopeless dream. With nothing else to do, I stayed inside and read books. But I quickly grew bored of it. It was no fun to read the same books over and over again. That, and I had come to resent the perfect princesses who had earned my mother's unconditional love. On the table, my mother had set out some food for me, as well as some money for emergencies. I had everything I needed. As long as I obeyed my mother, nothing bad or dangerous would ever happen. Or so I thought.
I'm back.
Welcome home, Mother. It was around then that exhaustion began to erode my mother's beauty. Her complexion was wan, and she often stared blankly into space. Anxious, I decided to ask her something I'd wondered for a long time.
Hey, Mother. What kind of job do you have?
Her face seemed to turn even more ashen.
I sell flowers. Can I do it too?
I wanted to lessen her burden, if only a tiny amount.
You don't need to. A prince doesn't have to work.
Alas, she simply stroked my hair. Even without her beauty, she never stopped being kind and loving. But I couldn't stand being a useless little prince.
I'm sorry, sweetie.
As she hugged me, I noticed she had gotten thinner.
Mother.
Just then, someone started banging on the front door. Mother flinched.
Not again.
What's wrong? She looked scared.
Come this way!
She grabbed me by the arm and pushed me into the closet.
You hide in here! Listen to me. No matter what happens, you have to stay in here! And don't say a word, understand?
And with that, she shut the closet door. A few moments later, I heard a man shouting. Then I heard my mother apologize.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'll pay it back very soon.
She sounded like she was crying. I could tell that something scary was happening, and my mother was trying to protect me from it. I wanted to dash out of the closet and rescue her, but my feet were rooted to the spot, right at the moment I needed them most. As a prince, I was supposed to save the princess. I had promised to protect my mother, but instead she had to protect me.
Found you!
I awoke to someone shaking my shoulders. Apparently I had fallen asleep. Is it safe to come out now? I rubbed my sleepy eyes.
Yes, it's safe now. Come on out.
Okay. I walked up to her and she pulled me into a hug. But I could smell a faint animal smell mixed in with her usual flowery fragrance, and it nearly made me gag.
I wonder. Mom may be a lady of the night, mayhap. Did you have to... Oh, gosh. Whew. Thank goodness Snow White fell asleep during that. Alright, let's keep going. And then the trash starts to pile up.
From that day on, my mother gradually continued to change. Her complexion grew pale, and wrinkles formed on her once youthful face. Her cheerful smile vanished, and she started taking a lot of medication. Then our clean, tidy house slowly filled with trash. As time passed, the place began to reek.
Now listen here. You're not like all the other kids. You're a precious angel. That's why you mustn't play outside. The world is filled with wicked wolves, and you can never trust them. So if one of them talks to you, be sure to ignore them. You have to watch the house while I'm gone, understand? And if anyone knocks on the door, don't let them in no matter what.
Yes, Mother. Then she stopped cooking for me. And eventually, she barely came home at all. But she still left a small amount of money on the table in case of emergencies. Why would she give me money if she didn't want me to leave the house? I didn't understand. I didn't need money, just like I didn't need food. If I stayed still, I wouldn't get hungry, and if I stayed home, I didn't need money. By that point, I was accustomed to sleeping during the day and being awake at night. Because of that, I started having strange dreams. In the dreams, I was sitting in the bright sunshine, listening to the waves. Then I remembered what someone had once told me. The lake tide swells and recedes just like the ocean. Supposedly, these waves are created by friction between the surface water and the wind. That said, a lake is still not the same as an ocean.
We've had this exact same series of lines before from Yurika's side. This is so weird. Like, word for word. I think this was in Red's route? I think.
A lake will not lead you to distant lands.
Maybe not. I can't. It was somebody else's route for sure.
Huh? When I awoke, I was inside the house. No sunshine, no waves, just a tiny cabin. The outside world was just a dream. Surely it couldn't hurt to have fun in my dreams, right? Before long, I started to dream of hanging out with someone.
Okay.
In these dreams, I was happy. But whenever I awoke, I found myself in a dark, empty house, reminding me that any happiness I felt was merely a phantom. Then one day...
Where were you?
My mother had come home unusually early that day.
I didn't go anywhere.
I didn't understand why she was angry. But when I tried to be honest with her, she thought I was lying.
Don't lie to me! Why? Why do you always lie to me? And what's this? Did you get this from someone?
She held up some clothes I didn't recognize.
That isn't mine. Then whose is it? I don't know where it came from, honest.
Slowly she shook her head. Her eyes were full of fear.
Please, answer me. Who are you?
It's me, your son.
No! You are not my child.
I'm not. Is that why we don't look alike? My eyes, my hair, my skin. None of it looks like yours.
No, that's not what I mean.
But Mother...
Give him back. Give me back my real son.
She collapsed into a fit of sobbing, but there was nothing I could do. It felt like she had rejected my entire existence. Truth be told, I was only ever a burden to her. If it wasn't for me, she could have been a princess.
I'm sorry, Mother. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry I was born.
Tears streamed down my face. The world steadily blurred.
Alice!
Then she called a name I didn't recognize.
Huh?
From there, the rest of my memories were fuzzy. The next thing I knew, I was alone at the house again. My mother was probably off at work. Left to my own devices, I once again chose to obey my mother. Like always, I read my books and dozed off. But then I had a depressing dream. I couldn't remember the details, but I had lied and hurt someone, and in the end I got hurt too.
Oh gosh, do you think that was in reference to Red's storyline with Grandma? Where, Wolf fell into the lake and then he ended up hurting his friend? Do you think that's what that was in reference to? I'm suspicious.
Where am I? When I awoke, I was in the middle of the forest, and my cheeks were wet. What was I doing out here? I didn't know exactly what time it was, but judging from my surroundings, it had to be pretty late. I was overwhelmed by indescribable fear and panic. The lights were on at my house. Had Mother come home? If so, then she had caught me breaking her rules. Would she be angry with me? Or was she just worried for my safety? Is anyone there? But no matter how hard I knocked, no one answered. This was definitely the right house. There weren't any others in sight. Hesitantly, I twisted the doorknob. Strangely enough, it was unlocked. I'm home. The moonlight streaming in through the window faintly illuminated the interior. I could smell a sugary scent. It was the smell of my mother's apple pie. Mother? My mother was collapsed over the table, looking at me with cold, unfeeling eyes. My heart thumped in my chest. Pallid skin, blue lips, lifeless dark eyes. I didn't know what had happened, but my knees shook and my palms began to sweat. Mother. Mother, wake up. You can't sleep here or you'll make yourself sick. I shook her by the shoulder, but she wouldn't wake.
Mother.
This time I shook her as hard as I could. She toppled over.
Oh no. The scream of anguish.
Screaming, I fell backwards onto the floor. Half of her face had turned reddish purple.
Mother! Mother!
I accidentally brushed her hand and was startled to find it ice cold. And that was the moment I realized that I would never see my mother again. From that day forward, Mother grew worse and worse. At first, she retained some degree of her good looks, but after 4 days, dark purple veins spread over her entire body. But at least back then I was still able to recognize her. After a week, blisters appeared all over her skin, which continued to change color. Then her body swelled, and she began to emit an unbearable odor. Maggots crawled all over her, and there were flies buzzing everywhere. There was no trace left of her former beauty. Now she was merely a monster. Come to think of it, it was around then that I stopped having those fun dreams. Sleep used to be my one escape from this miserable existence, and now I wasn't even afforded that. But hey, who needed dreams? My whole life was a nightmare now, and it was my obligation to endure it. The chilly air made my extremities go numb. My stomach rumbled endlessly. But even then, surprisingly enough, I still clung stubbornly to life. The words real life felt like an oxymoron. Sure, this was my life, but what part of it was real?
Why am I even alive?
Just then, I realized someone was staring at me from inside the mirror. I always hated looking in the mirror. The first time I saw my reflection, I didn't believe it was actually me. Skin as white as snow, lips and cheeks as red as an apple, and bright, shiny hair. For some reason, I was sure it had to be someone else entirely. Then I found myself wondering,
is that the real me?
Isn't that Alice?
Apprehensively, I looked over to find a boy with skin as white as snow, lips and cheeks as red as an apple, and bright, shiny hair. Then I asked my reflection,
Mirror, mirror on the wall, whose reflection do you hold? It's me.
The instant I heard those words, the thin thread holding me together finally snapped.
Who are you? What's your name? What are you doing in there? By any chance, are you Alice?
The boy in the reflection nodded.
Then, who am I?
Just then, the mirror reflected something else. There I saw an ugly boy with a greasy face and dandruff in his hair. In that moment, I understood everything. Why my mother had changed. Why the boy in the mirror didn't seem like me. And now I could see myself for what I truly was.